Okay, hi guys, welcome back to another review, and this one is going to be a good one, trust me. This is, those who know the channel and know me know that I am not a big fan of KZ. I think this is a company that makes a lot of earphones, and they sort of grew off of their hype from 2013, 2014 from a really cool little earphone that they released, and they've released a few other ones, ZS10, and so on, ZSX, that punched way above their weight. And now the company's trying to branch into higher end stuff. Higher end, I would still say, is like they're hovering about that $100-$150 price range right now. And for a long time, I've just not thought they were value for money. I thought that their approach is generally just to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Create a whole bunch of earphones that are virtually identical and under the CCA brand, and try and hope that something turns out good and that it catches on with the community. And if not, on to the next one, they'll release something else. I've been bitching and complaining about the cables on the KZ earphones for a long time. I think it's a joke what they do to the consumers with the terrible cables that they've included, which almost instantly makes you want to go and buy another cable, but you can't do it because they use these hooded connectors. And it just, for me, it was like saying to somebody, like, look, you're going to need to buy a cable if you're going to buy the earphones, so I would just skip it and get something else, like a tin hi-fi or something like that. However, there's been a few changes with this. This is the KZ AST model. You can see it's available in 3 different colors: green, black, white. This is the white version, which you can actually see is silver. And it comes in a no mic and a mic version. My experience with KZ mics is some of the worst, and I don't know why they bother to include it, so definitely go with the no mic version. Although I don't have experience with this new cable, just don't waste your time. So let's have a look at the packaging. Packaging, bog standard across the KZ line. KZ just have the same packaging pretty much across. I think they had white packaging for a while, maybe they still have it on their cheaper stuff, and this maybe is their premium offering. It's a decent quality recycled cardboard box with this stupid metal plate that doesn't really serve any purpose other than to tell you what type of earphone it is. Anyway, the earphones come protected quite well in this little slab of foam, and in here you open it up and you would be faced with the earphones configured like this, and underneath you get this little bag which contains the cable, and this other little bag that contains the worst ever included set of ear tips that you could ever imagine from any company ever. The KZ ear tips are absolute junk, and you should consider that you're going to buy a set of aftermarket ear tips pretty much straight off the bat. So accessories, typically pretty terrible, and I say typically because this cable is not actually a bad cable at all. It's still very tangle prone. I'm going to go ahead and take the earphones off themselves, so we'll get into them in a second. But yeah, this cable, you can see it's catching a couple of tangles, but it's nothing as bad as the previous generations of it. You can see it flows a lot better. These kinks, they sort of work their way out within sort of 10 minutes, or you just give them a little rub and they seem to disappear a lot easier, and it just flows and feels better. It feels like a more premium cable. It's a octo braid, so there's 8 strands in here before the splitter, and then after the splitter it splits into a quad braid, which is really nice, cuts down on microphonics. Not that it's really an issue with the over the ear loops, but yeah, it's just a more thought out, well designed cable that has better characteristics. I'm not going to say it's a good cable like something that you get on a, let's say, like a tin hi-fi earphone, or even on a Shure tape or something, but it's far improved. And this is the first time I feel like I can actually recommend a KZ earphone without saying, look, you're going to need to buy another cable. The jack point, this one 3.5mm, I don't think there's any options for balanced or anything like that. It's got nice knurling there, it's got a chrome finish and a little strain relief. It goes into a metal splitter point, but there is no cable cinch. You can always make one of them out of a zip tie if you really need it. The ear loops are they just feel a little bit nicer, they feel a little bit more premium. Whether or not it's the thicker gauge wire sitting inside it, it's a nicer experience getting them over the ear and getting them to stay there. And then you have the proprietary 2-pin hooded connector system. I've gone over this in every KZ review, but typically there's two types of connector system. You have a 2-pin and you have a MMCX. MMCX is my preference, just because I think it provides a little bit more protection. 2-pin typically has, the 2 pins will sit flush, so there'll just be 2 pins sitting flush on the earphone there, and you just plug the cable straight in. And for me, that just causes a little bit of problem, like when you try and put it in or out, or if you're changing cables, you have the chance to bend those terminals, or you can also, if the tolerances aren't high, you can get sweat ingress in there, which is going to corrode the actual terminals. So KZ, I think, have opted for this because they have a tendency to cram a lot of stuff inside their earphones, and obviously if you recess this into the housing, it's going to create less space on the inside of the housing. So they seem to have been putting it on the outside, and I actually quite like it because this hood provides a lot of protection. It provides a guide for when you're changing cable, and it also stops any chance of any water getting in there. I like it. I think it's a clever design. But the only problem here is that you are not going to be able to get a lot of aftermarket cables with that hooded feature on. So that means if you put a 2-pin connector there, it's going to protrude without the hood on it. And I just wouldn't advise doing that for the longevity of your earphones. But yeah, much improved cable, really like it. And let's get into the earphones themselves. So the first thing you should know, let's go into the most obvious thing that you're going to look at from here. These are big earphones. These are seriously, these are on the biggest side of the earphone market. The Denon Urban Ravers are similar sort of size comparison to that. That is a big sized earphone, but luckily it's not. The size isn't in the circumference of it, it's more just in the depth of it. You can see, so it does protrude quite a bit from your ear, and it does have a medium shallow insertion depth, so it's going to sit just quite far out in your ear. I didn't find that a problem. I've got medium sized ears. I didn't find that a problem. Is it as comfortable as something smaller or something like the Moondrop Aria or something like that? No, it's not. But they are, remember, there's 12 balanced armature drivers in each side of this. As for the physical design, I think they've done a good thing keeping this resin rather than going all metal with it, just because the physical size of it is going to add to the weight. The resin also affords you this luxury of being able to look inside and see just what a beautiful job of stacking those drivers. There is some extra space in there, but I just think that it's super cool that you can just see drivers stacked up everywhere. You can see the tubes, you can see the chip in there, you can see everything that's going on. It's very, very cool. A little vent here, I'm assuming that's real and not artificial, and there seems to be a little something over here as well. I can't ever be sure. KZ are famous for using fake vents just for styling purposes. Balanced armature, you wouldn't think it, but they might have a reason for doing it into the boreholes and stuff. So construction wise, I think it's pretty well made. It's not as good as an all metal earphone, but we discussed the drawbacks and the weight that would bring. They do have this glued in metal nozzle with metal grills on the end of it, so that's going to add a little bit of protection if your earphone meets the ground like this. If this was a all resin tip, you run the risk of it splintering and fracturing, which you don't want. And yeah, apart from that, I found them reasonably comfortable. I didn't really find too much of an issue with the size. As I say, the size protrudes outwards as opposing you to actually getting them into your ear. So yeah, build quality, fine, not great. Just like the cable, fine, not great. But the reason that I'm going to say these are the best KZ earphones, in my mind, is not even close. These are the best KZ earphones that have ever been made. And I think that how much you read into that's going to come down to the value proposition. These are, I believe, about $140. You might be able to find them on sale. I think they sound wise they're above $140. They're still under the $200 mark. I would keep them, but these are detail monsters. They have a lot of good points going for them and very, very, very little going wrong for them. Traditionally, I would like a balanced armature, a hybrid in combination with a dynamic driver in it. This is an all balanced armature. There's 24 balanced armatures in total, 12 aside, and that helps to compensate for some of the inherent problems with using a balanced armature design, which for the most part is the impact of the low end and the bass. So let's start with the bass. The bass on this is very, very good. This is up there with one of the best budget balanced armature earphone basses that I've ever heard, just because it has a slight bump to the low end. That adds that sense of quantity of bass that you're often missing from a balanced armature. With the reason, let's go into the reason why balanced armatures struggle there. It's a dynamic driver has a big old, usually 9 to 15, 16 millimeter dynamic driver is going to be able to push a lot of volume of air. The balanced armature's got a moving iron rod, and it just can't move that volume of air. It can move very quickly, and that's where its advantages lie, but it doesn't have that same impact and that depth, that real sort of feeling that you're standing in front of a speaker getting bass slamming at you. This compensates for that by having multiple balanced armatures all pushing at the same time, and it has a slight bass bump. And what you get is this really nice, fast, punchy, tight, detailed, textured bass. Is it going to have that ethereal subwoofer rumble that you're going to get with some dynamic drivers? No. But in terms of quantity, I don't really feel like I'm missing a lot here. I feel like the texture and the detail that you get in something like bass guitars and even like some bass drums, you can feel the texture, you can hear little nuances in it that you perhaps wouldn't have picked up from a dynamic driver because of the lack of speed, especially in a sort of budget form factor like the $140 market. They're not using the best dynamic drivers at that price point, so you're getting this really nice detailed texture, and I think that's an overall standing for these earphones, is that it's detail. Going up into the mid-range, the good thing is, because there's no bass bloat or anything like that from a slow dynamic driver, there's no bleed into the mid-range. It's absolutely no bleed. It's a smooth transition straight up into it, and like going into the mid-range, the vocals and the strings are excellent. I say excellent, they're not linear flat, they are not a balanced vocal. They've got a little bit of smoothness and a little bit of warmth to them, which I really like. And again, the combination of, I think what's happening is the multiple drivers, they are adding more weight to the vocals. What you find is that yes, you can get a lot of texture, a lot of detail from a single balanced armature, but sometimes you'll be lacking that sort of weight and heft that you feel when a string reverberates, or when a vocal cord, especially male vocals, like if you're listening to something like Whitey Ford or something like that, and you get the gravel in the voice. This just displays it with more weight, and at the same time it retains that energy that balanced armatures are known for. Mid-range, very, very good, and I don't think it gets drowned out by the bass, even though the bass is accentuated. The highs are quite smooth and refined. There's a lot of detail in them. I was expecting them to be quite shouty. KZ have a tendency to be quite shouty and overly cook their highs, especially in that recent terrible, god-awful oh, I can't remember what was it. Was it the CKX or something like that? It was the one where they tried to do a hybrid with like 16 balanced armatures, 8 aside or something, plus a hybrid, and it was a disaster. This has got a nice smoothed off treble, good extension, bit smooth presentation. I don't think that there's going to be that sort of spike in it that gives a metallic sheen to this. If you're listening to a lot of classical music, or if you say you're listening to high-ranging female vocals and stuff like that, a lot of J-pop, K-pop and stuff like that, you're getting enough brightness to give the energy and give the space to the track, but you're not getting that harshness that's gonna make you feel like these are a sibilant earphone. Just overall, the tuning, the blending is really, really good. Soundstage, I would say, is just slightly above average. They could have pushed that treble a little bit more and opened up that soundstage, but I think you're playing with fire there to get me to criticize your earphone at that point. I find these musical. I find them extremely detailed for the price. And yeah, like negative points, I don't really feel like there is a lot of negative points when you consider that they're a balanced armature, and if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for balanced armature earphones at this price, I think this is one of the best that you can be looking for. There's other options when you look at the Tin Hi-Fi P1, Shure Tape, and some other earphones in there that are going to do more specific things if they're hybrids, or even just dynamic driver earphones on their own, or the planar earphones. No, these are a really, really, really solid set of earphones. I think they're definitely worth the money at about 140. The things I don't like are, people are going to live with the size. I'm not really a fan of. I think there's prettier earphones. There's definitely earphones with better tips, and there's better cables out there. But on sound alone, yeah, these are definitely going to be recommended from me. So hope you all had a good Father's Day, and I'll catch you on the next review. Thanks for watching.